I'm Patricia Gill. I'm the Executive Director of Schurig Center for Brain Injury Recovery. We are located in Larkspur. We had a number of new people register for this webinar, so I'm just sharing this information briefly. We offer on-site and remote services, a whole array of services that include aphasia classes for people who've had stroke. We offer cognitive computerized rehabilitation through a program called Neuropsych Online. We have support groups for both survivors and caregivers. We have a whole art therapy program. We have another core program of classes. And so there is a lot of different services that we offer. We help people find resources in the community. Basically, you can call us, and if we can help you, we will, and we'll get some information, do an intake, see what you're interested in, and hopefully have services that will be a good fit. But if not, if we're not the right place, we'll try to help you find the right place. So we have help with that as well. Last week's webinar was recorded, and so I see that question. And it is on our website. So I think Deborah will put the link in the chat. And what I do when I'm on a Zoom or a webinar is when there's a link that goes into the chat, I click on it right away. So it'll open a browser that I then have open. I can go back to it another time and finish the webinar. That's the quickest way to not lose those links that are in the chat. So we will put that link to our recording from last week, but just know at our Schurig Center website, www.schurigcenter.org, we have a page for this Caregiver speaker series, and we are putting the recordings there, and also who's coming up, who's speaking next, when the next date is. And we also have a list of services on our website and other upcoming events. So check it out and see what's happening with our organization. So tonight we are, so finishing about Schurig Center, just to share that we're turning 40 this year. So yeah, I know, which is absolutely amazing. And Karen Schurig, our founder, would be beyond excited to know that we're turning 40, and to know that what she started in 1985 has progressed to where it is, and that we're even doing a caregiver speaker series. I think she'd be really pleased, and she dedicated much of her life to this organization. So we're here because of her, and we're indebted to Karen. So next year we turn 40, and we'll be celebrating in different ways that we'll send out. But just know we are here for survivors and caregivers of traumatic brain injury, concussion, stroke, and other forms of acquired brain injury. And all you have to do is give us a call or visit our website to learn more. And I can answer questions as well after Jacki does her spiel. We are very, very happy to have Jacki here. I'm very happy to be partnering with Jacki on this speaker series. She came back for tonight because there was a number of people who asked to have more OT consultation. Last week we had Jacki and a neurologist, Dr. Gary Abrams from UCSF, was on. And so people wanted a little bit more time with Jacki. So she's back. You're back. And Jacki is one of the most inspiring, passionate, talented professionals that I have had the pleasure of meeting and working with, and just love her energy and her commitment to helping people heal. She has a true belief that people can heal, and an approach that is personalized and that meets people where they are geographically. So she comes to people's homes, but also meets people where they are in their rehab program. And I just think that Jacki is a tremendous asset to survivors and caregivers in the Bay Area and beyond. So really happy that you're here, Jacki. And she's going to tell you more about herself and about what she's going to talk about tonight. And then I'll be jumping in when she's done with what she's going to present about. I'll be jumping in to share your questions with her so we get those addressed. And feel free to pop your questions in whenever you feel like, so that they're there when she's ready. All right, so I guess if there's nothing else that I didn't forget, and Deborah will let me know because she's on it. I'm going to turn it over to Jacki.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A lovely introduction.
I know.
No, I want
And
to,
it was all true.
I always say I want to put you in my pocket and just let you tell
Yeah,
me.
right? Whenever you want to feel good about yourself.
Okay, hi everybody. So I know some of you know me from the previous session, but I'll just do a quick recap about me. I'm an OT, of course. I've been treating for over 10 years, and I ended up specializing in acquired brain injury rehab. It's where my passion is. I'm obsessed with it. So I used to work in the hospital systems, but now I have my own private practice so that I can try to help bridge the gap for when people leave the hospital. They don't have as many services as they would like. So I'm trying to help bridge that gap a little bit. So I see private clients, I go to their house or take them out into the community. But I also have an online community that has therapy resources, and people gain access to me that way to help with their recovery virtually. So one of the big things that I want to talk about today is this idea of becoming more of a therapeutic caregiver. So it's designed for you, of course, as caregivers. It's a big passion of mine because, like I said, when a lot of people leave the hospital, they go from, again, having all this therapy services to just being alone at home with their caregiver. And a lot of the recovery process then ends up falling on the caregiver, which a lot of you have no training, right? In like the training that the therapists have, or like years and years of education. And you are all at home with your loved one with not maybe like one day of caregiver training in the hospital. So I'm trying to help um, teach a little bit more about becoming a therapeutic caregiver so that you can help your loved one progress at home. So I'm going to share my screen here because I have a little presentation. I just want to make sure that you all can see it okay. Okay. I hope you all can see that. If not, Patricia, let me know. Okay, so again, today
I can see it.
you can. Okay, great.
Oh, actually, hopefully, maybe somebody who's joined can let us know that they can see it too. One of our guests.
Okay, I'll keep chatting. Let me know though if there's some trouble. So again, I'm going to talk to you about becoming a therapeutic caregiver and teaching you some skills that you can really help progress your loved one at home. So when we talk about therapeutic caregiving, what is a therapeutic caregiver? And it's a lot of things, but the three main ones are someone who understands their loved one's deficits. And each of these three things we're going to talk about in depth in the presentation. So one of them is understanding what your loved one is struggling with, understanding how to progress them toward their goals, and also take, as a caregiver, taking care of yourself along the way. If you can't take care of yourself properly, then you're not going to be able to care for your loved one. So we're going to dive into each of these a little bit. But again, the ultimate goal of becoming a therapeutic caregiver is not just to improve your loved one and the quality of life for them, but also for you, right? If their quality of life is improved, then your quality of life will also improve as a caregiver. So let's dive into the first one, understanding your warrior's deficits. So these are just some brief examples, but understanding what they're actually struggling with, right? So understanding what they're struggling with physically, cognitively, emotionally, or they're visually. So these are all important. And as a caregiver, it's not expected that you can be able to determine what they're struggling with, right? Because again, you didn't go to college for years and years. You're not a doctor or a therapist, right? So what I would recommend is trying to get a therapy evaluation if your loved one hasn't had one already, right? But when you get a therapy evaluation, they can provide you with, okay, these are the things that your warrior is struggling with, and this is what we need to improve on in order for them to reach their goals. So again, these are just some examples in each category. A lot of people can really understand the physical issues that somebody's struggling with because they're really obvious. But the cognitive ones are the sneaky ones that we really want to make sure we're understanding. And a lot of people forget about the emotional aspect of it. And that's where, again, your providers can really help you to understand more. You can get a neuropsychologist to do an evaluation, a speech therapist to help a little bit more so that you can understand the cognitive struggles that they're having, or an ophthalmologist to help you with the vision. So really, in order for you to help your loved one progress at home, you really need to make sure you understand exactly what they're struggling with. So now we're going to go on to understanding how to progress your loved one at home. But before we dive into it, I really want you to know that this is not an easy thing to do. Like, for you to understand how to progress them is pretty much like being a therapist. Again, we have years and years of experience and education. So when I go over the next few topics, they're therapeutic strategies that we use as therapists to help somebody progress. But I want you to know that if you don't understand them right away, or if you're not doing them, just be a little bit gentle on yourself, because you're not going to be able to do this 100% of the time, right? It might be 15% of the time that you're able to use these techniques. But just even if you just do a little bit, again, a little bit of understanding this can help you progress your loved one. And I guess it's slow progress is still progress. So if you're not, on it 100% of the time helping them progress, that's okay. Because you really don't have the capability of doing that 24/7. So again, you have time constraints, like progressing your loved one under a time constraint. You have like, I have to cook for them. I have to do their medication management and do their shopping and everything. You might not have time, right, to, for example, allow them 30 minutes to try to put their shirt on, right, to kind of work through it. So what I'm going to recommend is that you just, and I'll explain a little bit more as I go, but just try to just pick one thing, even if it's one thing per day, for you to try to help them with, allow them time to improve on. So for example, if you're getting dressed with them in the morning and typically you do everything for them, maybe in the morning you allow them to try to put their shirt on by themselves, but then you put their pants on and socks on and everything else. And then at night, when they're putting their pajamas on, you again allow them maybe to just try their pants. Right, so you can still allow them time and you can still help them progress, but it could just be a little bit at a time, and that's okay. So we're going to start to get into some of the techniques now. And all of the techniques that we talk about here, all of the education, I want you to know that it's also inside the online community that you have free access to, and we can talk about how to get into that later on. So don't feel like you need to memorize this because you'll have access to it after. Okay, but the first therapeutic strategy that I want you to understand, and again, you don't have to memorize, but I just want you to get an idea of it. These are the functional levels. So we use these as therapists to progress somebody. So say somebody first has their brain injury or stroke and they can't do anything for themselves. That would be a total assist level, right? That's the top. The goal is for them to work through each of these steps toward independence. Okay, so I'm going to go through each of these and I want you to use this as a lens. So when your loved one is performing an activity, it could be any activity. It could be, again, putting their clothes on. It could be cooking or a leisure activity, doing a card game or a puzzle, or doing their medication management. So at the total assist level is that the caregiver, you are doing 100% of the work. So that means your loved one isn't doing anything. You're completely dressing them. You're completely cooking for them, everything. So the next step from there is something which we call max assist. And this is when the caregiver is doing more than half of the work. It's kind of broken up into 50%. So now the caregiver is doing more than half, but the loved one is helping a little bit. And so an example of this would be, we're going to use, say, putting your pants on as an example. At the total assist level, the person might be lying in bed and the caregiver is putting the pants over their feet and over their hips. At the max assist level, maybe the person is sitting up and maybe they're putting the pants over one of their feet, but then they can't do the rest. And then the caregiver is putting the pants over the other foot and pulling them up for them. So the next step from there would be mod assist, moderate assist. And this is when the caregiver is doing less than half the work. So now, say again, the same pants example, the warrior in recovery might maybe put the pants over their feet and they might stand up and start to pull them up, but then they can't get their left side. Maybe their left arm is weak. So the caregiver helps a little bit on their left side. So in this situation, the caregiver is doing less than half the work, right? We want your loved one in recovery to do more. So again, thinking about this, when your loved one is performing an activity and you're assisting them, are you doing more than half of the work, or are they doing more than half? So your goal is to try to progress them to doing a little bit more, a little bit more. So after that, it becomes this contact guard assist, which is just like a touching assistance. So that means that your warrior is doing all of the work and you're just kind of there touching them, maybe for balance. So say they're standing, they put the pants over their feet, they're standing to pull them up, and you're just kind of touching them to make sure they don't lose their balance, right? But they're physically putting their pants on by themselves. Then after that, we go to the supervision assist. And this is where if somebody has cognitive deficits, it can get a little bit tricky. Okay, so, and we see this a lot, right, with people who are recovering from brain injury. They might be walking and physically fine and everything, but then they need supervision for safety, right? Maybe they might make a decision that's not really safe. And they might need like cues. So what cues we think of, a verbal a cue or a visual cue, like, hey, okay, they're putting their pants on. Hey, make sure that you dress your left foot first because that'll be easier. Or hey, when you stand up, make sure that you hold on to your walker. So again, just a verbal or visual cue that you're providing, but they actually don't need any physical assistance. So again, we want to keep progressing through these to set up or cleanup assistance, which that means no supervision is required. So they're super safe and they're almost independent. So an example of this would be, again, sticking with the pants, say they can't walk to the closet to get their pants. So you bring them their clothes and you set them next to them on the bed and you leave the room and they can get dressed and do it all on their own. That would be more of like a setup type of assistance. And then we'll progress toward independence. And this means you're not even in the room at all. They can get up, get their clothes, they can get dressed by themselves, and they don't even need you. So I use the pants as an example, but I want you to just get an idea of how to progress your loved one toward independence. Whatever level they're at right now, try to figure out, okay, my loved one is at a moderate assist level. How can I get them to a contact guard, right? Or they're at a max assist. I'm doing more than half of the effort. How can I get them to a moderate assistance? That's going to be the next goal. Usually people don't jump from max assist to independence in a day, right? They always work their way through the steps. So just kind of keep this in mind. And next time that your loved one is doing an activity, think about, how much assistance am I providing? Does my loved one need me to provide total assist? Maybe they can be mod assist. Can they do some of the work? So again, keep these functional levels in mind as you're trying to progress at home. Okay, another technique that I want you to just be aware of is this idea of remediation or compensation. So when somebody is regaining the skills after an acquired brain injury, as we know, neuroplasticity is really important, right? The brain has the capability to change, which is why the therapy is so helpful. If somebody can't use their arm after a brain injury, and then we do exercises, right, to help strengthen their arm again, we're remediating or restoring their skills, right? The brain can change and adapt and now they can use their arm. So that is an example of a remediation strategy, right? It's regaining skills. I can't move my leg. Let me try to strengthen it. And so that I gain the skills back. And this can also be with cognitive function as well, right? If you are lacking some attention or memory, right? There's the chance that we can rehabilitate that and remediate that. So we do exercises to improve your attention and improve your memory. But then there's this idea of compensation, which you all probably have seen. It's like the use of adaptive equipment. So if your loved one, say again, doesn't have use of their arm, maybe they can use one-handed equipment for cooking. There's one-handed cutting boards and chopping devices and everything. So that would be a compensatory technique. right? So remediation is we're regaining the skills, and compensatory is we're adapting the activity to meet your loved one where they're at. And again, it can even be used for vision. Like if somebody has low vision, you can change the settings in the iPhone to make the font bigger, right? That's compensating for the low vision. So these two are really, really important. You always want to be trying remediation techniques. And Patricia had mentioned earlier that I'm really focused on always helping people progress, even 8 years post stroke. I'm still using remediation techniques with my clients because they still have the capability of changing the plasticity of their brain. But along the way, we might add some compensation. So I want to talk to you about when you should use compensation. And remediation techniques are always welcomed. You always want to try. So when we talk about when to use compensatory techniques, if you use compensatory techniques from the get-go, meaning right off the bat, you're using one-handed meal prep strategies, then you're not even trying to remediate your arm, right? So there are times that using adaptive equipment is really important. Or for another example, if you're struggling with memory, right? Remediating your memory, doing exercises and activities to improve your memory is important, but you might use a compensatory technique of it, as an example, a timer or a reminder, an alarm on your phone to help you remember things, or a daily planner to help you remember things. So when you're thinking about using compensatory techniques, I want you to remember that you should always be trying remediation first. And then you can try compensatory techniques as well if the first line here, if it's allowing for independence. So say, for example, as a caregiver, you need to go away on vacation and maybe your loved one needs to cook independently. Then they really might want to have those strategies and the equipment to be able to cook independently if they can't use their arm very well. Or for example, if you can't be there during their dressing techniques in the morning, they might use a reacher or some adaptive equipment to dress their lower body because they can do it independently with that. But ideally, the goal would be for you to be around to help them do it without adaptive equipment. So the second aspect is to improve participation. So again, sticking with that cooking example, if somebody can't cook, if they really can't cook a meal that they want to with one arm, then they can't really participate in the activity, right? And that could decrease their mood and decrease their quality of life. So we always want to promote participation, even if that means you're using equipment or compensatory techniques to help you. No matter what, quality of life is extremely important, right? And engagement in the things that you love is really, really important. So you can use compensatory techniques if that means, if that's the difference between being able to participate or not at all. You can also integrate both techniques together. So as an example, say your loved one likes to play cards and they are playing a card game and they're holding the cards with their weak hand and they're doing really, really well. That's the remediation part, right? They're trying to hold the cards with their left hand. And then eventually their hand gets tired and they start to drop the cards. Then you add in the compensatory technique. Okay, now I'm going to use a card holder because I really pushed my hand to the limit. And now I'm going to bring in an adaptive strategy and put my playing cards in there. And then maybe give your hand a break. And then later on, try to hold them again. So you can integrate both techniques together as well. So this strategy, though, the remediation and compensation, it's not easy to understand. So, and not easy to figure out when should I provide my loved one with a compensatory technique, or when should I really try to encourage them to not use it. So if you have questions with this one, please feel free to ask me, and I can help you determine which technique is appropriate. Okay, moving on. So another strategy, this is one of the last ones, is called the Just Right Challenge. We use these as therapists all the time, but I want you to just get an idea of what it is, because it can really help progress your loved one. So when you're setting your loved one up with an activity, or if they're just engaging in anything, we don't want it to be too easy for them, and we don't want it to be too difficult for them. We want it to be just right. And we almost want it to be like just right, but like a little bit difficult, because then it's progressing them. Like it's a little bit challenging, but they can still do it and participate. Um, and so that will lead to the best type of progress. If something is too easy, again, let's just use the example of dressing. If you're doing everything for them and they aren't helping at all, now there's no progression towards their goals. They also have decreased motivation and a lack of autonomy. They might be thinking, man, I can't dress myself, right? Because you're doing everything for them. It's too easy. Um, or if it's too difficult, say they really physically need assistance. They can only put half of their shirt on. If you just hand them their shirt and walk away, now they might get frustrated, right? You can imagine. And again, now that leads to little progress towards their goals. So we want it to be kind of somewhere right in the middle. And another good example of this is, say your loved one wants to participate in leisure activities again, and they say, you know what, I think I want to try a jigsaw puzzle. And you set them up with a jigsaw puzzle that's 10 pieces, like for children, right? Now, again, they might be like, this is too easy, they might not want to do participate in jigsaw puzzles, or they might be feeling like, oh, like, yeah, way too easy. But if it's too difficult, say you give them a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, now they really struggle, right? And they have little progress toward their goals. They start to get frustrated. They start to have decreased motivation. I can't do anything. And then they might say, I never want to do a jigsaw puzzle again. And then that's off the table for a little bit, right? But if you pick one that's maybe 250 pieces, right? Again, it might be that just right challenge that they enjoy it, they feel success. So when you're thinking about this, you want to think about it along with their deficits physically. Again, if they only have weakness on one side of their body, am I making it physically too easy for them or physically too difficult? You want to think about it cognitively. Am I making this task for them cognitively too easy or cognitively too difficult? When we're thinking about remediation, right, we want people to be moving physically. We want people to be challenging themselves cognitively. So if you make it too easy, then there's no challenge for them, right? Then they're never going to make progress. But if you make it too difficult, they're also not going to progress. They can't participate either way. So we want to try to find something that's in the middle. And same thing emotionally. This is something that I am constantly thinking about with my clients who have maybe some anxiety. They're really anxious about, say, getting in the shower again, right? If it's too easy, or if it's too difficult, they might say, you know what, I'm never showering again. That was way too scary. I'm not doing that again. So maybe we need the Just Right challenge, like a little dry run. Maybe we need a dry run in the shower. Let's make them feel comfortable, but it's a little bit challenging because they're still getting in the shower. They're still kind of going through the process, but they have their clothes on and it's kind of a dry run. Right. So you also want to just be thinking about this emotionally for your loved one too. I also have a lot of clients post brain injury who really struggle with depression. And sometimes when we think about the Just Right challenge for them, it might be making them feel really successful, right? So you might want to, if your loved one is struggling in that area, you might want to set them up with something that you know for sure they can be successful at, so that they get the feelings like, okay, I did it. I know I can do this, and then make it a little bit harder and a little bit harder. So again, it's very specific to your loved one. I can help guide you with how to determine what the Just Right challenge is for your loved one, but I just wanted you to get an idea of like, just to put this in your head, right? And think about, okay, is this really too easy for them or too difficult? Okay. So this is just an example of how you can progress your loved one physically at home. And I'm going to kind of tie everything together and give you an example of that remediation and compensation too. So when we're thinking about progressing somebody physically, lying down in bed is the easiest, right? Think about somebody putting their, again, let's stick to putting their clothes on, right? If they're putting their clothes on lying down in bed, it's the easiest. They don't have to worry about their sitting balance or anything. The next step is sitting with support. So it could be sitting in a wheelchair, or it could be sitting with any kind of back support. And then they can practice putting their clothes on in that position. Then the next progression physically is going to be unsupported sitting. So now you take away that backrest. So now maybe it's they're sitting at the edge of the bed to participate in dressing techniques. Now they have to worry about their sitting balance, right? Then from there, it's going to be participating standing, right? So you can have supported standing first would be with a cane or a walker or at a tabletop or at a sink if they're doing their grooming. And then of course, the last stage is unsupported standing. So now they really have to have balance, standing balance. So I want you to think about these positions. For every activity that your loved one does, you can consider these positions, right? Think about, again, if they're participating in cooking. I mean, they're probably not going to cook lying down, right? But say they're cooking in their wheelchair at the table and they're preparing a meal sitting with back support. Then maybe they try to sit at a table on a chair that doesn't have back support while they start to cook. And then maybe they progress to walking around the kitchen with their walker and cooking, and then eventually taking the walker away. So just understanding, again, the next phase of what your loved one can do and trying to work towards that goal. So when you're thinking about the remediation and compensation, of course, going from lying to supported sitting to it's remediation, right? We're building strength. However, you can use these positions also in a compensatory way. So say, for example, your loved one is independent when they dress themselves from the wheelchair. That's level 2, supported sitting, right? They don't even need you in the room and they can do it from the wheelchair. But they are, say, a moderate assistance when they're supported standing at level 4 because they need you there to help them with their standing balance. So if you're under a time constraint, right, or if you're trying to figure out how to, like, when you can provide time for your loved one to do it, the goal is always, again, to be remediating. You want to be trying to have them do it standing with you, helping with standing balance. But if you need to be cooking a meal while they're getting dressed for time, then maybe you can set them up in supported sitting and they can do their dressing independently while you do something else. But then the next day you say, okay, let's group together and allow time for you to dress yourself standing. And then you're there for support. So you can use these positions to set your loved one up with an activity independently while you go do something else. Or you can make it a little bit more challenging and be there with them. So again, if you have questions on what type of position your loved one should be performing activities in, please ask me because I can absolutely help you with this. One other thing to consider with these phases is making sure that your loved one's safe, right? Anytime that you're progressing your loved one and having them try different activities, you really want to make sure that you're there close by and that it's safe. If you're trying to say, okay, you normally put your clothes on in the wheelchair, let's try it at the edge of the bed today, which is going from level 2 to level 3. When they first try that, you really want to make sure that you're right there. So, because if they're not used to it, right, you need to have your arms near them, making sure they're not falling forward, right? So again, just keep in mind that when you're going from level to level, that you want to make sure that safety is the most important thing. And if you're feeling uncomfortable about progressing your loved one, always ask a therapist. If you again, you have access to me, but if you have a therapist that you're working with, before progressing them, just run it by them and say, hey, can you give me some tips? Can I progress them to the next level? Okay, so that was just a couple of examples of how you can progress your loved one at home. And it's again, you're not going to be able to get those right away. Like it takes time, but I just wanted to kind of put it on your radar for things that you can start to look for. So the last part about being a therapeutic caregiver is, of course, caring for yourself. And I know that this is so much easier said than done. Trust me, I have very close relationships with the caregivers that I work with, and all of them have some level of stress. So you're not alone in that. And taking care of yourself is almost, it always gets put on the back burner. Um, but I want to make sure that you are making this a priority. And some ways that you can do it is delegating tasks when you can. If you have a support system for yourself, if you have family or friends or something, try the best you can to delegate. And again, I know that's easier said than done, but maybe you can have a friend go pick up the medications at the store for you, or go food shopping for you. Just help out a little bit. Number two is take breaks and or vacations. Again, I know easier said than done, but if you can make that work, really try to take some time for yourself and take breaks so that you don't go crazy. Number three is continue the best you can with a hobby of your own that makes you happy. When you become a caregiver, it's like your identity totally changes. You go from the roles that you have in life, which is whoever you are, to now being a caregiver a lot of the time, right? It's probably like 90% of the time or more that you are now having this identity of a caregiver. And a lot of your own hobbies kind of get thrown out the window. So I want you to just start, if you aren't yet, pick one hobby of your own or just something that brings you joy. It could be once a week going to a dance class or joining a book club that's on Zoom once a month, anything, but just try the best you can to have something for yourself that's bringing you joy. Number four is self-monitoring every day. So again, this is easier said than done for timing, but if you have a little journal on your phone or something, just taking an inventory of your own emotions, being intuitive with your own body and your own emotions, doing a self check-in. My husband and I call it check-ins. He goes, I want a Jacki check-in and or I want an Axel check-in. And we check in with each other of how is your anxiety? How is your mood today? You could do this for yourself. Am I feeling really anxious? What can I do today that can help me with that? Right. Once you're intuitive with your own emotions, you can try to make them better. Right. But if you have no idea how you're feeling, then it's going to be really difficult for you to get better. So that step of realizing yourself, being intuitive with how you're feeling is step number one. And then you can create a little toolbox of things that might help. Okay, I'm feeling this level of stress. Will a walk help me? Or do I just need some time to my, time alone? Or you can, develop your toolbox to help you get through it. But the first step is just, yeah, being intuitive. And then number five is seeking support for yourself. Again, easier said than done, but if you have a support group that you can join or therapy for yourself, maybe to help you get through it, it's not an easy time. And your emotions might be all over the place. Your stress might be all over the place. So having some support for yourself is also important. Okay, everybody, thank you. So I know that that was a lot. And the progressing your loved one, understanding how to progress your loved one is the hardest part. So please, 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 that's why I'm here. So you can ask me questions, of course, during this webinar, but if you want to ask me inside the online community or email me, please feel free and I'll help you in any way I can. So if we're ready, we can
Okay, yes, that's
get up
great.
for some Q&A.
Yeah, well, okay, well, I'm
Stop
gonna go
sharing.
ahead and share the questions with you, Jacki, but that was really great. I love the way you do your slides, really straightforward. It's kind of, to me, it's how you tend to speak and teach and share information. It's easily understood, it's straightforward, there's not a lot of text. I just found it really, really helpful and enjoyable for myself too.
Good. I hope so. It's not easy things to understand. So I hope it sunk a little bit, if not.
Yeah. Well, I definitely think that it did for hopefully everyone. But I do know there was a person who commented in the chat about how that they found it very helpful that they hadn't thought of moving their loved one from sitting while dressing to standing while dressing.
Mhm.
And I think uh, I've been a caregiver of somebody who had injury, and I think that I can only speak for myself, but I do remember that feeling of sometimes you're juggling so much and there's so many things that you're doing that it's hard to think of what could be a creative next step or an alternative next step or what can help that person progress because you're really trying to just get through where they are and
Right.
manage life. So I think that that can, so I really appreciated that and that reminder of thinking about different steps. And that can apply to everything from, yeah, I mean, just that there are the steps and that people can improve. It just be can be challenging at times. So I wanted to share that comment with you because I know you're not looking at that while you're presenting.
Thank you.
And so let's go to a question. Okay, so it's a question that says, I know D, who is their loved one, can become independent, but when I let him know he can do something without me, I get pushback. Ah. Then eventually he figures it out. Is this normal?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's super common. Wait, so I let him know he can do something about me, and then he does it. Yeah. Um, and that's again where like what I was saying about understanding your loved one's deficits also emotionally too. Because and this also could be a cognitive deficit, more so like understand some self-awareness issue, right? But again, determining is it a self-awareness issue, right? That he's not really understanding what he's capable of or what he's not, or is it something emotionally that he feels like he can't do it, and he wants to ask for help all the time. So figuring out which aspect it is can help you move forward, and determine the next phase. But it's extremely common. And what I would suggest is that if his memory is intact, or his or her, oh, his memory is intact, every time that he eventually figures it out, you could be like, see, I knew you could do it, you know? And then moving forward, just say, hey, remember yesterday when you did that alone? You did it. And really providing some positive reinforcement. When he does it, high five, like, yes, that's what I'm talking about. See, you did it. And encourage him for the future to remember that moment. And so hopefully he can start to not push back as much moving forward.
And I guess also maybe it might depend on what the how the pushback looks.
Mhm.
I think like what the person, what D is saying or acting out or type of injury. Is there pushback in other areas or other things?
Mhm.
Because sometimes here at the center, you know, with the services that we offer on site and we're working directly with clients, sometimes the pushback we get is timing of the day when we're trying to, because we try to do things that help increase independent abilities as well while here. And sometimes we get pushback if it's late in the afternoon, if people are fatigued. Like you said, I mean, if there's some fear or they're not feeling confident they can do it, so they don't want to take the risk because there can be some shame and if I'm not going to be able to do it, or sometimes it has to do with the reason that that even comes up. And
Yes.
yeah, and so that can, but it can also be challenging to know, well, how to deal with that because if you don't give in and you say, you know, I'd like you to you can do this and try it, and they still get the pushback, it can be hard to know how you support that person to take that challenge. And
Right.
and it sounds like he, you know, this person D actually eventually does figure it out, but almost seems like figure wants to figure it out on their own in some way, not when they're being asked to
That
figure.
could be it too.
Potentially, I
You're
so
right, though. Maybe even asking after he does figure it out, asking like, okay, so before this, you thought you couldn't, but you
Yeah,
did. What are your feelings now?
yeah,
Yeah, inquiring why he's feeling that way.
absolutely. Um, yeah. So in the chat, I wanted to share a comment. Um, thank you so, let's see. Thank you so much, Jackie. I can tell that you are not only very knowledgeable, but also very kind, caring, and compassionate person. This is another comment you want to carry in your pocket
I know. So I
about
put it
how
in my
great you
pocket
are.
too.
They're curious about the price range of your services. And they just said, by the way, I live in Berkeley, not in Marin. So that also, if there's any geographic difference in price and if somebody has to commute to the person's home or not. Um, I think that might be part of that question as well.
Yeah, lots of factors go into the pricing for sometimes how often we see somebody or how far we have to drive to see somebody. So I would just suggest reach out to me and we can talk more in depth about your situation. And we have actually we have therapists all over the Bay Area. So we have one in Walnut Creek, one in the Berkeley area. She's on maternity leave. She should be coming back soon, but I'm also in that area, San Francisco, Marin. So yeah, I would just shoot me an email and we can chat about it, about your situation.
Yeah. And do you have that information on your website? I mean, what the fee range is and what forms of payment you accept?
We don't have it on the website, but because we typically have it on an individual basis, so we can just chat more about it if when you call.
It's
And
kind of like how our center operates as a nonprofit. I mean, it sounds similar that we want people to call us and find out about what we're doing and see if it's a good fit. And then the actual services, the fee for services, some are offered free, but if we do have a fee-based service, it's based on and it's on an individual basis because there's scholarship funding.
mm,
And
mhm.
so people can tailor it to what can be affordable. So it sounds like that's the situation for your practice as well.
And the
I mean, not scholarship funding, you're not a nonprofit. I'm just saying that you want to talk to somebody and try to work with them and understand their situation
yes,
and establish fees together.
the online community is free for Shurig Center members, so that I would get in there, and all the information that I talked about today, the pictures, the everything that's all in there and listed out, so you can join there too.
Yeah, that actually is such a great community. And I'm actually really, I agree with Carolyn's comment about how you are very knowledgeable, but I think that kind and caring, compassionate nature comes across in the work that you're doing with the clients. I think they feel that, and it can really help people feel safe and comfortable and inspired to try to improve and to work with you. I think it makes a big difference.
It's important. What people are going through is like, it's just not easy. Everybody is anxious about it, you know? It's like a new body, new mind, that they're trying to work through.
Mhm. Do you want to walk through the uh, there's in the chat, there's the link to the Empowered Neuro.
Mhm.
Would you like to walk through the Empowered Neuro website and I think show I mentioned in the chat that there's some videos on your site that have helpful tips as well
Mhm.
that I think are really good
Yeah,
for people
absolutely.
to potentially see. And feel free to put your questions in the Q&A while Jackie's showing that. If you have any questions specific to your situation or your loved one, or even questions about how to do some of the tips that Jackie put in her presentation, so that how do you support yourself? And even just taking time to check in with yourself, or if there's any questions that relate to some of the suggestions you had and how to accomplish that. I know when I was a caregiver, that came up for me is how do I take that time to check in with myself?
Yeah.
I know sometimes I'd go in the restroom and just take a few moments in the restroom to just say, okay. Okay. It depends on how full time your caregiving is and things like that, right?
Yeah.
Um, so
I'll
they will
share my
have to
screen.
copy and paste the link. That's in the chat. So, okay, so if you want to go to If you want to utilize that link that is in the chat from Sharing Center to Everyone, the tinyurl.com. Yeah. You have to copy that and paste it into your browser, and that should take you there. But do you want to go ahead and bring up your screen, Jack?
Sure.
Yeah, because I think it's a brilliant site that you've created.
Sure thing. Okay. We jumped right into the caregiver section, therapeutic caregiving.
Oh my gosh, how perfect.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's perfect.
yeah, so this is the online community. Again, I designed it to the private practice can be, of course, a little bit more on the pricier side because it's private therapy. We have to come to your home. So I designed this so that it can really serve anybody. Again, Sharing members get for free, but it's just $17 a month. So anybody can join and learn and have access to me.
Great.
So,
Jackie, we have a quick question for you.
oh, sure.
Um, yeah, do you, so for holistic life skills, are you planning to expand to have therapists in Sonoma County? Or maybe you already do now? This Janu is in Petaluma and would love some assistance with teaching their loved one to cook again.
Oh my gosh, that's so sweet. Actually, I have a client in Sebastopol and in Santa Rosa that I go and travel up to see. And I have a therapist that works in Marin that travels up there. So Petaluma is right on the way. So yeah,
So
shoot
you
me
are in Sonoma County. Yes, you actually already are.
Sonoma County. Oh gosh, I'm not from here, so I don't even know
Oh,
that.
that is Sonoma County.
Okay, so
Santa Rosa, Petaluma, that Sebastopol, that's all Sonoma.
sorry.
Perfect. So the answer is yes.
Yeah, shoot me an email and I can we can connect.
And
Uh,
so, what's the email you want people to use? Should they go to your hlskills.com website, or do you have, I can type it in the chat, actually.
Sure. You can put yeah, the HL Skills website has all of the information. So you can go to the book a free consultation section and then you can find a therapist in your area.
Okay.
And all the therapists' emails and phone numbers are on there.
Oh, okay, great. So they should go to your website and then they can email. And if they have questions about fee or the structure of your service, is that something they should direct to you, even if you're not their area therapist? Or should they be directing questions to the therapist in their area that have to do more with your structure and your organization?
Yeah, that's a good question. No, you can just reach out to any of the therapists. And what will happen is, say again, you're located in San Francisco, you would reach out to the San Francisco therapist, Anne Marie, and she would book a 20-minute free consultation phone call. Or sometimes it's more than 20 minutes, sometimes it's less. But then we chat about your situation and then at the end talk about the pricing and what it would look like. So you can just reach out to the direct therapist in your area and get all the information.
Great. Okay. Great. So on your screen there, this is awesome.
Yeah, you can
Orientation.
actually see some of the things that we talked about, right? Again, like the
Oh,
function
yeah, you have your
level,
slides there.
right? It's all here and I explain it in here. Now you already know about it. So, but there's a section for therapeutic caregiving. So on the side here, you see therapeutic caregiving. There are skills. So this is the skills that you need to progress your loved one at home. Um, oh, this is a good one. You guys should, if your loved one has cognitive deficits, definitely learn how to cue them properly.
So
But then,
are those videos or is that text?
so this is all text, but I am planning on doing like a whole course on it with a Q&A, kind of like how we're doing now. So
Oh,
that
that's great. Can you click on one of those just to give
sure
us a
can.
sense of what that looks like?
Sure can. So it's explaining, like when your loved one is at that supervision level, right, that they don't need any physical assistance, but they might need some cues of verbal cues, visual cues. It's explaining what the cues are, when to provide each cue. This is difficult stuff. It takes practice, but that's how you can progress your loved one cognitively. Right. So as an example, a verbal cue, you want them to be short and sweet. If they have left neglect, look to the left. or lean forward, right? Short and sweet, verbal cues. But it explains a little bit about what each style cue is, when to use them, and actually the order for using them. So it gives you kind of step-by-step instructions.
Oh, that's great. This is really helpful. I wish this had been created when I was caregiving. This is really helpful. And to remember to be short and sweet, because we can often say more and not realize that it's overwhelming
Yes.
to our loved
And
one to
the
kind
more
of
you say, the more you're technically helping them, right? So if you can say less and they can get it with just a quick verbal cue, that's better, right? Than you explaining everything that they need to do.
That's true. That's true. And I think sometimes we get in the habit of um, s saying too much and jumping in because we also feel like it can take more time if we try to support somebody to be more independent. It's going to take longer for them to figure it out or to do it. And sometimes we're just really busy. So that is I loved what you said earlier about how the more independent that your loved one becomes or the more their quality of life improves, the more your quality of life improves. And so it can be really good to take that time.
Right. And that's the thing is like these things are not easy to
Mm-mm.
understand. There's a lot to it, which is why I want to help guide you. But if you do everything from for your loved one's going to be dependent for the rest of their life, which means the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But if you can try to understand these the best you can, sprinkle them in, and your loved one can slowly progress, then your life slowly also.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so there is this section on skills of you becoming more of a therapeutic caregiver, learning therapy skills. But then there's also the self-care section. Again, it's important, right, for you to also be taking care of yourself. So, like we were talking about, there are some journal prompts in here that are specific to caregivers, right, that you can try to work through to figure out what your stress levels are, how you're feeling. Um, Again, this is another, I always talk about neuroplasticity for caregivers too, for your emotions, right? Because if your internal language is really negative, then your emotions become negative, right? If your internal language is very negative, stressful thoughts, then that's what your emotions become and that's what your life becomes. And so if you can try to work on neuroplasticity for your own thoughts, changing your thoughts into more positive thoughts, then you gain more positive emotions and your life becomes more positive. So there's also this level of neuroplasticity for caregivers that you can learn to change your own thought processes and be happier. So we focus on a little bit of that here too. But other than the therapeutic caregiving section, we just have therapy resources as well. So again, if your loved one, for example, say is working on transferring, right? If you want, so say you want to progress them from sitting at the edge of the bed to standing, right? You can learn some transfer techniques. You can learn balance exercises to help them progress. So if you're concerned about, okay, well, this is where they're at, and I want them to be here. Now you understand, okay, they're at a max assist, and I want them to be at a mod assist, but how do I do that? Now you go to the therapy resources and you can learn how to do that. So I will show you balance exercises. And again, here we have like one-handed dressing techniques. So if you're putting your loved one's shirt on because they only have one arm, watch these videos and learn the technique for how they can learn to dress themselves with one arm. And then they go from total assist, you were doing everything for them, to say supervision, because now you're just telling them, oh, here are the steps from that video. Try to put your left arm in first, right? That's your verbal cue. Put your left arm in first. And so then now they progress from total assist through the ranks toward independence. So you can use the therapy resources in this section to help your loved one progress to the next levels. And
So
there's
can you show, I remember you showed one video to our staff when you were introducing us to your site. Can you show a video?
Sure, I
I
can
just
show
thought it
you
was
that.
really like there's 5 positions to put socks on,
Oh
or
yeah, I love that one. This
yeah,
one is a
I haven't seen that
video.
one, but I
This one isn't a video, but again, like if your loved one is like say they have weakness and they can't put their socks on the way they used to be able to, here's 5 different techniques that they could try. Crossing the leg, figure four, bending forward, side sitting on the bed,
Mm.
using a step stool, right? So there's different positions that they could try to put their socks on to gain independence. You
Is
know,
there, okay, so is it, what would be the position for somebody who can't really move their legs?
so
Say
both
they're
of their
in
legs,
wheelchairs.
both of their legs.
Yeah. Like if they couldn't do some of the moving their leg up, but they can move their upper body, so that would be a bending over.
Yep, they could try bending
That
over.
would be the bending forward position. That would probably be,
Side sitting is also helpful if they have sitting balance, right? They could try to side sit on the bed and pull their leg up.
yeah, yeah.
Even this one, this crossing your leg over, you can pull your leg up over into that crossing position
Uh-huh.
and then put your sock on, right? So there, I always say that if there's a will, there's a way. If you can just try out these 5 different positions, right? Of course, there's always the compensatory technique of using a sock aid, right? You could use an adaptive device to put your socks on, but you should try the remediation strategy
Mhm.
first, which is all these 5 different positions. And if none of them work, okay, then maybe you can try the sock aid so that you could be independent still. But 5 different positions you could try.
I know, that's great. That's great. I was trying to picture what a sock aid is.
Oh, I'll show you. It's in here. Look, compensatory technique, right?
Uh,
If you don't have that, and there's videos of how you can put the sock on. That's what the sock looks like.
oh, it almost looks like a sock monkey.
Yes.
Like this
And
reminded me
again,
of
there's
that.
a video of how to use it. If none of those 5 positions work, you can go in here and learn how to use a sock to help.
Wow, this is great. And I know that you're working on it all the time. So you have a lot of content that you're actively creating on a regular basis. So in addition to working directly with clients, you're working on the site all the time.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm trying to, I put up about maybe 2 to 3 resources a week.
Yeah. No, that's great.
And
That's
and we
great.
also host, kind of similar to what we're doing here, we host live events with other rehab professionals. Because again, I'm only an OT, so I try to bring on other professionals in the neurology field.
Oh,
And
what's that? You said you have one that's advocating
yeah, so the
in the
next one
healthcare
coming,
system?
yeah, this is next week. We're going to do a live event with this woman, Dr. Ruth Linden. She is a health advocate.
Hmm.
And she helps a lot of people advocate within the healthcare system with their diagnosis. So she's coming on to help answer some questions for everybody. But you can go to the replays section and watch any of the live events that we've had in the past. So we just did one recently with with a driving rehab specialist, with neuropsychologists we've had on, acupuncturists. So we've already had a lot of professionals come on and educate about their topic. And I always encourage people every time they join the community, I always say, who do you want on?
Exactly.
Who do you
Yeah.
want to talk to? And then I try to find somebody and I
Yeah.
try to work and bring them on.
Well, and you know what's wonderful is also with our series. I mean, people are uh sharing their expertise and their time.
Mhm.
And they enjoy it and want to provide that kind of support. So but that's great to be able to go back and watch these videos. Because, for example, we had, I think, 50 or 60 people register for our webinar last week, and not all those people were able to show up. And that happens. You click on something, you register for it, and you can't always join. But you can watch the replay. I'm really happy that we're doing the recording,
Yeah, like we
like
said,
like you're doing
caregivers have
as well.
busy, busy lives. So if they can watch it at their own time, on their own time, it's great.
No, this is really great.
Um,
Okay, well, I like that.
Yeah, one other thing about the site is that anybody who joins can ask questions in the member chat, and you can like then everybody can team up and answer the questions. If I don't know the answer, there are hundreds of people in here who were caregivers or went through the injury themselves and can help to answer the question for you. Um, so yeah, get in there. The election is coming up, and there's a good resource on voting tips if you're living with a traumatic brain injury. So,
Oh, what
talk,
is that? What do you mean by that? Go down to that. Sorry. I
no,
just,
that's okay.
because it's coming up.
Hmm.
Amazing resource on voting tips for people. The election is coming up. Okay. So is
Hmm.
this for brain injury survivors who are on their own?
Yeah,
Or is
or
this
even if
also caregivers to know how to help support their loved one?
And if you have a caregiver, go to this resource and they provide tips on like what your rights are, how to vote if you have a traumatic brain injury. So that's a good resource in there that you might want to check
Oh, okay,
out.
that is.
Yeah.
How do I prepare to vote? Where can I register? This is great. This is great.
So that's the community. Everybody has that's here gets free access. So check out that link and get in there.
Yeah, so that I'm really excited about that. And I want to thank you again, Jackie. Shurig Center has partnered with Holistic Life Skills to be able to offer this link for free to everyone. So we're contributing to Holistic Life Skills from Shurig Center to be able to offer that. And it's a collaboration together. We're both supporting that ability. And I just think it's an incredible resource. So
Thank you.
I'm excited about that. Well, so anything else you want to just wrap up with that maybe you didn't get to share, Jackie?
I think that was a lot of information for today. I hope it wasn't too overwhelming, but please just feel free to reach out to me inside the online community, or you can email me if you have any questions about any of it. I'm happy to help.
And one thing I'm just curious about is what inspired you to become an occupational therapist?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Knew I wanted to work in healthcare. And my sister is a speech therapist, actually. So she took me to the hospital one day and said, observe all the different, therapies and everything. And she was on a pediatric unit, and the OTs were playing with the kids. And I was like, they're playing with the kids. I want to do that. It was obviously very therapeutic. And so I went into OT school, and then I never wanted to work with kids. And I loved working with adults. So here I am.
Oh, yeah, because in OT school you worked primarily with adults and you just found
Yes,
that passion.
I,
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. And the OT profession I just find really meaningful, right? We're helping people get back to the things that they love doing and things that bring them joy. How could you not want, it brings me joy.
Yeah, and that's obvious. That's why I was curious how you got into it. It's just it sort of clicked for you.
Mm.
You saw it and it clicked, and there's a playful element to it
Yeah.
that and you bring that you bring that energy. So there's a comment in the chat. Appreciate your presentation. Looking forward to explore Holistic Life Skills site and where it may be helpful in our situation. Thank you! Exclamation mark. So that's nice. Well, I really want to thank you for being here, Jackie, and doing this presentation for this group. And so I've just a couple things for wrapping up. I thought it might be helpful. Let's see. I was thinking of looking at yeah, well, maybe we only have a few minutes, so maybe I won't do that. I was thinking it might be helpful to look at our website and oh, do you need me to call 911? Are you choking?
Water went down the wrong pipe there.
We just had our CPR recertification, so I'm well versed on, are you okay? Are you okay? Call 911. So, um, but we have our website. I'll put that in the chat here real quick for people to go to our website if they would like to learn more about Shurig Center and our services and how to connect. But when you go to our website, there's the homepage, which is the kind of about page, and really tells you, how we have our mission to provide continued rehabilitation, hope, and community for people affected by brain injury. And then how we help and why we're here. You can learn about our founder, Karen Schurig. You can learn about the services that we offer. We also have a resource database, brain injury information handbook that's in a PDF format. So there's different ways. There's also testimonials and stories of healing on our site. It's also where you would go to, well, actually you can click on the link that was just put in the chat by Deborah to register for next month's webinar, which is on November 6th. And that you can also go to our website to and go to the about page and the how we help, and you can look at the caregiver speaker series and you can register there. Next month on November 6th, which is right after voting day. So Jacki, your website, maybe people can check out how to vote, how to support loved ones to vote. We are hosting the next Caregiver Speaker Series, 5:30 to 7, and Kaylin Stewart, who's a speech language pathologist, will be speaking and doing a presentation. She'll be talking about what speech therapy is, what they do, and when a speech therapy can be needed and helpful. And then she'll address your individual questions that relate to your loved one, and that will also be recorded. So that's on November 6th. We also have coming up on our speaker series, we have a attorney who specializes in disability rights and obtaining long-term disability. So and it has a lot of experience in that realm. So it can really answer questions and legal questions, and particularly around disability law. And then we also have a neuropsychologist who will be coming on, and a physician who specializes in sleep disorders, but also how to improve your sleep and what are some of the tips, sleeping for people with injury, but also others as well. So those are some of the people who are coming up. And just to wrap up, I want to share with you that Schurig Center is having its annual holiday art show and celebration, and it's open to the public. So it's on December 7th, which is the first Saturday of December, from 12 to 3, and we have live music, create artwork that is created in our art therapy programs, and we have refreshments, and it's a social connection, but also you can come and do some holiday shopping. So we have it's super fun. We do this every year. We've been doing it for a number of years. And also just to remind, and that's going to be at our center in Larkspur. So you can get the address from our website. And also just a reminder that the survey, you'll see a survey when we close the webinar, a survey will pop up. And if you are able to answer those questions, oh, beautiful, beautiful cat. Oh my God. Wow. Beautiful. I should have Yodi come pop up on the screen and say hello to my dog. She's under the desk. The survey will pop up, and if you could take just a couple minutes, because your feedback on how you like this format, what topics you want, anything that you didn't get to ask that you want to make sure we know, just take that survey. And when you do, the survey that pops up when we close the screen will be for non-anonymous, so you can put your name on that. And then we'll also email you some links to do the survey anonymously or with your name as well, if you don't do it right after this. So really want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you for your comments and your questions, and for just your interest in partnering with Holistic Life Skills and Schurig Center together, because we both, Jacki, her organization, and ours, really believe that it's very important to provide support for caregivers as well, because through the healthcare process, it's really focused on the person who has the injury, and caregivers are often kind of off on their own, having to figure out how to care for themselves, but then also how to care for their loved one when they go home. So we just feel like it's important to kind of be here for you. All right, so thank you again, and hopefully we'll get to connect with everybody for our event on November 6th.
Thanks,
All right. Thank
everyone.
you again, Jacki. Good to see you.
Always.
Okay. All right, everyone, take good care. Oh, wait, there's two. Oh, thank you. You're welcome, Connie. Okay. Good night.